Hello, welcome to the layout. This week I want to start working on this hard standing surface. So I've sort of got an idea on how to do this. I don't want to use the plaster on this time, but obviously I've got the track. I mean, I could use it, but I'm not sure yet. I think I'm going to go with the card hard standing because I want it to sort of roughly be from there and encapsulate that track there and these three tracks. So I'm not convinced I need to do it in the plaster method like I did on the hard standing at the dock edge. And I could probably get away with just doing this in the card. And I would just sort of use the card as a sort of a template, you know, these paper as a template for the card. So but I think it would need to be sort of straight on there. But then the track does go off that way, so you're going to need to be straight but also at an angle there, and I think it'd be too difficult to do with the plaster. Not sure if it'll work out well, so I think first thing I need to do is start to make some of these templates, have a look, cut some card out and just have a look and see how it really does fit. So that's what I'm going to do first. Right, first thing I need to do is make a paper template of roughly where all the track is going to be. So I'm going to need, just join these pieces up. There. That looks like all I'm going to need actually. So I need to make sure I've got enough to go all the way around. I'm just going to use a just graphite pencil just to let me know exactly where the rails are. Oh, I don't want it to move. Probably could have done with just fixing it down actually. So that's going to tell me what to create on the cardboard templates. So I'm obviously going to need 3 sheets, but it'll give me the gap size for here in the middle. On here I'm going to need probably to go from there and then sort of slope it down to the front there. So I'll need to just mirror that edge, I think. Or do I just leave it as a strip and then I can put a building on the hard standing there, you know, maybe a portable cabin or something like that. So I think once I start to get the card cut and fitted, then it'll give me a bit more idea. That's my next step, is to cut this template out so I can got some card patterns. You can see I've got my template. I've trimmed it a little bit, a couple of small pieces, but this is going to be about the size of the hard standing. And now I just need to stick it to some card. So as you can see, if I use 2mm card, which will go the height of the sleepers, this Co 100 track, and then 1mm card over the top, and that will go up to the rails and be perfect height. And then it's 1mm card with a texture on there. So the top card's going to have all the texture on it, which will be like this. I've got one that I printed a while back actually, and you just realised. So that's going to be sort of on there. I'm not sure if I'm going to use that texture. But I'll wait and see. I've got another concrete texture that comes with the depot, but obviously there's only a small piece of that, so I'd have to Photoshop a piece and make that. So I need to think about what I'm going to do as the texture, but that gives you an idea of like a concrete look without actually having to do all the painting and everything like that. One good thing to do is just do a little bits of grass in between, you know, to give you that weeds growing through the concrete, and a little bit of oil splashed in places. But let's get this stuck down. I need to make sure I stick them on this side. I've done it in the past where I've used the wrong side of the template, and you know, you're sort of busy working away and you stick them down and you go, oh, what did I do that for? But this, you know, just buy plenty of card. Actually, I'm going to need to order some more because I've got quite a few buildings and things to make, and I've not got as much card left as I was expecting. So and one good thing is if you've got any offcuts, absolutely brilliant, so you're not wasting loads of card. So I've used this for another project in the past, but I only needed a small piece of it, so that's good. So I'm going to sort of mark, so I don't waste loads of glue either. I don't want to put glue on all the bits that I'm not going to use. This is how I did the last hard standing on the last traction maintenance depot I did, so it should work without any issues. Right, let's, I think I'm going to apply it to the paper this time. It's not got to stay on the card anyway, but I didn't want to go over all the edges of the card. This is where I rip all the template there, and I regret that decision. But I think I'm going to be okay. Right, press that down, let it all stick. I need to put some tape just to, before I start cutting it out. But let's leave that to fully dry before I attempt to cut it out. So there we go. So that's a good size. Oh yeah, it ends there. So what I do need to do, there is a track that goes along here on the layout. That's going to be ballasted. and then it curves around there. So I want to make sure I've got enough space at the ends, so I might need to make that just very slightly bigger when I come to do it. So just because I want to put the buffer stop built into the hard standing. I mean, there is one way you could do it. You could end the hard standing there and have the buffer stop with a bit of ballast, but I don't think I'm going to do that. So let's just come back once this is all fully done. Now we'll start cutting it out. And yeah, I'll put it all on 2mm card. It's a mistake I've made in the past where I put it all on the wrong size card and then have to double it all up. But so this is the card that I've got left. There's some 2mm there, there's some 1mm, and there's the 0.5mm. So I'm going to definitely order some more tonight. So I've got plenty more card for all the projects that I'm planning on doing for this layout. Right, one thing I didn't say, and I didn't really think about doing it, but what I did is I used some PVA glue and I glued all the card pieces together, so it means that I've got one solid piece of card now. So now, cutting out, I only got a 1 foot ruler and I really need a lot longer than that. So, could be tricky. So I think first of all I'm just going to go, how am I going to make that straight? I'll probably have to switch the cutting board instead of that. Yeah, I was going to just use the, but I'm not going to get a straight edge if I don't. Then I can use the grid on the cutting board. Right, that looks all over the place. If I had that as a straight edge. Now the problem that I've got is that wasn't a straight edge, not quite. So I don't want to make a right mess. I want it to look pretty good. So, but as you can see, if I use that as a straight edge, that looks awful. So, what's going off there? Maybe I just didn't get me templates quite that straight when I was doing the card. But luckily, if I put that up to where the track is, and just do a little bit of a gap, tiny little bit, I think that should give me enough hard standing, and it should be nice and parallel to the track. Yeah, absolutely fine. Now, do I have to cut the inside out? What I am going to do is I'm going to stop right on the end and then cut it across, and hopefully it will just sort of slot in and won't leave me with a bit of a gap like I've done in the past. Oh, there is going to be quite a bit of trimming on these because that is the rail, I actually remember. So I'm going to need, if I go to that initially, and then I'm probably going to need to trim a couple of mil off that. I think this is a long time since I've done the cardboard cutout ones. I don't want to cut too much off, so I'm going to go on the outside of the line. I was just thinking here, that is the line, and I need to cut it to the sleeper, so I'm going to have to measure it to there, and then I'm going to need to do another template with the textured paper over the top. Right, that's not an issue. I just need to mark this out now, so I will need to just get a pen. I don't need to be 100% because the next layer does cover it, but it's nice to get it as accurate as you can. Give myself a few parts to get straight up to. So I do want to make sure that this looks its best, really. I think it's a lot easier doing it in plaster. Now I need to come across at the end there. Sort of just a guess that was a straight line. But just got to be roughly perfect. So I'm going to get this one cut out and then work on the rest, and then we can get it on the layout and just see if it vaguely works. Oops, straight down the ruler, damaging the ruler and the blade. Now technically you could just cut loads of little pieces and just glue them onto the layout itself, and that would work just the same. And I did do that last time, and I numbered every single piece just to make sure that I knew exactly where they all went when I put them back after ballasting. But I just thought I'd do a different approach to it this time. Right, that's my first piece cut out, so I'm going to carry on getting all this rest of this template cut out and come back and let's see if it fits. Right, let's we've got this cut out. That's got a bit floppy there, so the glue hasn't quite, but I've got it sellotaped, so that's pretty good. And I'm sorry the camera angle's not the best because I've not got a huge amount of space in here, but that's gone on okay. Little bit of trim in there where the inspection piers, and a little bit of trim in there where the curve of the track goes. So I'm not going to need to, might try and just curve that. And the same with this as well, on this edge here. Right, let's get my pen and mark a few of the small pieces that need trimming slightly. So what have we got? I'm going to need a little bit extra, just where this inspection pit is actually. Seems to be slightly bigger on this side, not much. And that one seems pretty okay, but I need to just do. And I'll copy the curve of the track. And the same here. Just by hand. I think that'll look okay. So it does sort of wander a little bit there, but I think that's okay. So the only little bit to trim off is there. I'm actually quite pleased on that. Oh, just as I sort of said that, there is a little bit here that I've noticed. I've not got either. It's because it's not quite perfect along there, which I suspect that's why it's not fitting. So I'm going to trim a very small piece off all the way off that, and I can push that to fit correctly. So if I go a bit too far, the next layer covers that anyway, because that covers up to the rails. This is just to cover up to the sleepers. And as you probably notice, I've got missing sleepers here. Don't need to fill those in because that's going to get covered with hard standing. The only issue I've got is I need to cut the board along there. So technically I could actually fix all this down here as long as I didn't get any water on it from ballast in this track here. I'm not going to risk it. I'm just going to make the templates, get it all on there, get it all looking good, and then I'll work on the ballast afterwards. But just going to be in two pieces because the board join. So I'm going to just trim a little piece of that off and see how it fits after that. That's pretty good though. Right, second go at fitting. Let's see if I trim that little bit extra off. Yes. Okay. That is sitting absolutely perfect. It looks good. It's right up to the edge of the pit. Maybe I could trim a tiny piece off there. What I will do though with that is just get a piece of sandpaper and trim that out, because you won't be able to cut 1/2 millimetre or even if it's just 1 millimetre, it'll be just impossible. But yeah, that template is right. So I know the lengths that I need. I've got the 1mm card now. I may need, I know I won't need more than 2 sheets. But, what do I need? Looks like, I remember now, about 14-15 mil. So I need to mark out roughly 15mm. Now I could use squares on the cutting mat actually. They should be. Oops. They are 10mm, but I need 15, so it's not quite going to work, is it? So let's just do it properly. Let's just try that piece, see if that's going to fit. Let me make sure I've got that measured right. Yeah, 15mm, just look really narrow then compared to the inside of the track. So, but it is right. Doesn't give you quite as close hard standing to the edge of the rails as when you do the plaster. Because one of the things you've got is the chairs on the rails, which cause the card to deform a little bit, but 1mm card should be fine, and as you can see, fits nice on the in between. So I need the right length. That's only just a bit over. And let's cut that. That should be my first piece of hard standing in inside track anyway. I'm going to get the rest cut and then I'm going to get them fitted. Right, I've got those in. I've labelled that 1 and 1A upside down. That I've labelled 3 the correct way around. And I just want to I was just about to fit this piece and then I measured it by total eye and I went, that's going to be a right mess. So this is part of the steps that goes down to the inspection pit as well. So, and as I could see, I've made a massive error when I was marking that out. I would have been cursing. So that bit's all going to get cut out, so I could reuse that piece. I do apologise if I'm actually in the way. It's really hard to get the camera in a good position to show what I'm doing when I'm working on this part of the layout. But as you can see, I did this by eye and I went, I need it there. Measured it by the ruler and it's there. So the rule is measure twice, cut once. I don't always follow that rule. So I end up cutting twice. Now those pieces are in. I've labelled them 2A and 2. Would have been better to have done it 2 and 2A, but it's because I did the 1A there and 1, it just made sense to follow the same pattern there. So that's all that done. Just got to make the top piece there, but I'm going to save that as it's getting quite late in the evening now. It's now 10:30, and I just feel that I just want to get a drink, chill out for half an hour. So I'm going to carry on with this tomorrow. I'm going to get the rest of the 1mm card cut. So what I have decided to do was make a new template. So I've got the dimensions for the centerpieces there, because that was going to just be too difficult to try and measure here and then over there, and it's also given me a rough outline, but I'm not too worried about that because I'll just make it long and then I can trim the edges off afterwards. But I just needed an idea of this section for the middle. Now I've got all this all dried and glued, and I just need to get this cut out. I'll use a bit of a bigger blade. I've put it onto 3 sheets, so I thought that would make it easy. And what I do need to do is make sure I'm cutting it as up to the lines, because I'm going to need a little bit of space, but I think I can always trim this afterwards. That is my plan. I've probably got should be a little bit tighter, I think, there. Hope I'm not going to regret that. And I'm just going to chop. I don't mind if it's patchwork because the cover layer will cover that. So it's just remembering it's easier on the when you're cutting it for the outside. So what I will do is I think I'll just cut all the way across and then see if that fits. What we could do with the cutting board. That's going to be on 2 pieces, one of those bits of card. So I think I'll just carry on. And then right, and then test fit that piece. I've just dropped this piece in, and we're pretty good on the rails on this top piece. Slightly need to trim a tiny bit off there, but there's a bit more to trim off on this edge here, so not quite perfect. So I'm going to line that up with that rail, and just use my marker pen. Well, just use normal pen, I should say. just need to trim a little bit off there. So let's get that trimmed. So there we have all the pieces actually in. Now that doesn't look too bad. So next job is to test them with a bit of rolling stock, make sure there's enough clearance everywhere, and then glue all these down to that main piece, and then cut it out again to flip it over, trim all the edges off. I do need to just put in little bits on the end there, but I'm going to do those right at the end. Don't need to do them now, so I can do that once I've actually got everything glued together. So I'm going to just check it with some rolling stock, get it glued, put some weights on there while it glues, and then just do a bit of tidying up, and then try and start to get the cover layers on. So like I said, I just need to test, make sure there's enough clearance. So I thought I'd use an old Hornby coach this time. A little bit I might need to take off there, because the car, because the car's sitting higher. I will need to, once these centres are glued down, I think that'll be fine, but I'll need to double check those. So I'm really just checking the outside. Oh dear. Right, I want to do is just hold the card down there. I think I've derailed that actually. No, maybe not. But yeah, that's all working fine. So now I'm just going to glue all those pieces in, weigh them down, leave them for a few hours to actually glue properly before I start doing any little bit of trimming. So that's everything weighed down. Bit of a hodgepodge of items to use, but I think it'll be fine. If I find anything that's not stuck quite right, I can re-glue and just clamp together once I take it off. But I've just got to watch, because I've got a little bit of glue seepage onto the main board there, and that's going to stick the card to the board, so I'm going to have to be very careful when I come to cut that now. So I'll have to use a knife to just make sure I get it off the board correctly. But yeah, I mean, I'm going to leave that for quite a few hours and then come back. Right, as you can see, I've got them all stuck down and glued up. I perhaps should have done something slightly different, because I've got all the gaps glued at the same place, so would have been better to have had the card in a different, but that's not going to be an issue, because once it gets stuck down to the layout. But I do need to now trim the 1mm card up to the edge, not thinking I've got to trim that there, because that's there to cover the sleepers. So that's all I need to do. And then I've got my wraps. So I've got my texture papers there that I've just created in Photoshop, and I've taken some of these, and I'm going to use the yellow line just where the sort of the pit is, just give a warning not to fall in. So I'm just going to gently cut these off. So I can start to get this into the exact shape that I want. And it's basically, I'm just going to follow the underneath. And then once I've done all that, I can start putting those cover wraps on. So let me carry on and finish this, and we'll come back. Well, that's all trimmed up right, and I'm not sure what to do now, whether to take this top paper layer off or pull any loose pieces. I don't think I'm going to get it all off, but there is sellotape on here, and that's not going to be the best joint, but if there's any loose, I think I'm going to remove that before I stick the next layer on. Like you can see that straight away, that would have been ridiculous. And I just don't want to leave it with loads of dips and bumps though. So but at least it will give a good key to the glue. So that one's pretty good. Oh, there's a, I say that, it comes off in the corner there. And it's definitely loose around that bottom piece. So normally it's fine to just go straight over the top as long as it's solid enough, but I don't want to have concrete peeling up on my hard standing. Now I'm not really sure what I'm going to stick this down with, so I want it to really stick well. And I normally use sort of Pritt stick for this sort of thing, but obviously I've used Pritt stick to stick all this down, and I can see it peeling at the corners. So what do I use? And I need a glue that's not going to get it too wet. Oh, and I haven't really got any spray adhesive, which I think that would be ideal. A little bit of a gap there actually. That's gonna maybe show up on the on the paper. So I might drop a piece of PVA glue in that gap, but I'm thinking of that glue for the backdrops. As long as I don't get it too wet, it won't soak through. Because the worst thing, I mean, I have covered these in lacquer, but even if you get them too wet, even with a lacquer, it makes the ink, it soaks through to the ink and turns it green. And I could use just this PVA glue. And that is my thought, actually, to use that. Just get a brush and brush this on nice and thin, leave it to tack off a little bit, and then stick the paper on. And I think that would work better because it will soak into this paper as well. So I'm going to go and get a brush, get this applied, and then get those wraps, textures put on. I'm going to leave it to go over the middles as well, so when I turn it over I can then drop these in, whichever one that one is. That one's 3. And then I can cut these out and then stick them onto the inner tracks afterwards, and then the textures should marry up when it's actually laid out on the layout. I've just about got it all on, so I'm just gone over the whole lot. I just want to make sure I got right to the edges, but it's seems to have covered every single piece, and there's plenty on there, so probably too much, so it'll probably end up creasing up or soaking through. But good tip for you, use one of your worst brushes, because if you're like me, you just put it to one side, you forget out about it, and then the glue dries on it, and then you throw it away. You try and wash it out every single time, but then you just throw it away. So I'm just going to leave that just to tack off for a minute or so, and then stick the wraps on. I keep saying wraps, I mean texture covers. Right, here goes. And what I am going to do is I'm going to overlap, because I want to wrap it around the edges. So if it ever does peel up, I've got extra around the edges, so it shouldn't ever do that. And I'm going to spray this as well with a bit of weathering. The printer seems to have not been at its best today. I didn't get that to position very well then, so I have to overlap there, and hopefully trim that little piece off. Right, I'm going to flip that over now to ruin anything. I think I might do it like this. Right, I could put a bit of weight on there, let that fully dry, and come back. Well, I've had a bit of weight on there, left it an hour, and before I cut anything out, and that seems to have gone on all right. Some of the glue has soaked in, but I'll give that another spray anyway. But it just makes it look a little bit dirty, so not too bad, not too fussed about that. So now I'm just going to trim a little bit around the edges, so I can then fold it around, and I also need to put in the pieces in there and then cut around those. Whether I do that off here, because I need a bit to cut around, or I just make new pieces for those. But I think the first thing to do is get this edges trimmed off. Don't want to cut into the table. Expensive, be a bit expensive mistake doing that. So I just, if I was going to put these on, I'd want to wrap those around as well. And that's what I'm just thinking, you know, I think that was 2A when it goes that way round. And the pit is on here. I don't know whether that, I think that one's that, yeah, that's 2A. So if I put those on and not then cut it to the edge, I'm not going to be able to get that to wrap around. I know that's up to the rail, so I'm going to have a rethink in that, and I'm just going to cover those with some texture, and then I'll just like cut down the middle there and then fold that onto this edge, so it takes away anything that could just catch the paper texture and pull it off. So I'm gonna, so I can cut across there. I need to so that'll get wrapped on there, so that'll be fine. And then the idea of this is to just pull it up over there, and then makes a nice edge to it, so you don't see any of the card edges. Because what I did in the past is you could actually see the card edge. So if I do that side, and then that one like so. And I'll just use some standard just PVA glue to pull this in. Or I might use that special bond actually, and that will stick it quicker. So I'm going to go and fetch that. I think that's in the workshop. So definitely going to use a different glue. So I'll use that special bond. I need to trim a bit more off there. And then, like I said, I'm just going to trim down the middle and then let that fold across. Because I only want it to be up onto there. So, right, let me get all this trimmed up, and we'll come back and see if I've made a mess or it looks alright. I've just got this last bit left to go. Ooh, I've got a bit too much on there. Should be alright though. That's like all the edges covered. So there we go. Ooh, a little bit of glue over the edge there. Now that doesn't look bad. Looks much better when you go and do the edges. There's a little bit there actually that and a little bit on that end that needs to trim off. There was a little bit coming up. There it was. It's quite good, this special bond glue. Doesn't really make marks either once it's glued down. But yeah, I definitely recommend this one for a lot of paper textures and things like that. So that's looking good. So the last thing I've got left to do is wrap all these pieces. And one thing I do need to do is make sure, because this is the top, so I want to write the same thing on the bottom. So I'm going to put T and then 2AB and then 3T and 3B. and then at least I'm not going to get anything wrong. So I just need to go and get those off the printer. I do need to spray them up before I put them on, so I'm going to have a little bit of drying time on there, but I'm going to give this another spray at the same time anyway. So right, I think that's not far off finished really. Obviously it all needs gluing in, but I'm not going to glue that in until I've got all my ballast set up, because the PVA glue will soak into the card and just ruin everything. But you know, do seem to have some, it will run, so it is working as it should, although I really do need to get it all stuck down, because it will move these pieces. So but I'm thinking these yellow strips, so hopefully I'm not going to be too much of the way of the camera, but I'm going to just put two yellow strips across there like that. So I'm just going to glue those in place now. I just used a bit of prick stick on those. Now I know exactly where to glue them for the pit, and that's the end. So really it's going to look very similar to that, and I think that's quite a good hard standing. I'm just going to fix these in place actually before we go, and I'm just going to rub it along the prick stick. Hoping that's central enough. Looks alright. Same with the other one. There we go, the nice safety warning. Let me move that out of the way. And obviously it will move around, but I think that's the idea. It looks quite good. Obviously you're definitely going to need to get some more glue on there. I would say thank you for watching, and I hope you've enjoyed this video, and I'll hopefully see you on the next update that I do on the layout. And have a good evening or a good rest of the day, and take care.